Hello and welcome to another Garmin Marine webinar brought to you by the Garmin Marine team. I'm Dowe Thornton and I'm joined today with our subject matter expert, Danny Thompson. He's up in Minnesota. He's our ice fishing guru, if you can say anything about Danny. Danny, how are you?
Doing good, doing good.
Good. Thanks for joining us today. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about the new 2021-2022 ice fishing bundles and kits. Again, as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to marine.training@garmin.com. So let's get going. So Danny, this kind of sums up what we've got for 2021 and 2022. Got a few new things out there.
Yeah, exactly. So, we've got a great lineup of ice fishing products nowadays. We kind of go all the way through the entire price point lineup and, as far as the amount of features and technology that we have. And this year, we've added the all new LiveScope lithium ice bundle and that new Vivid Striker 5. So kind of some new exciting things this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, we've got kind of something from the beginner to the advanced.
Yes, exactly. And it's like the cool part I think about the Garmin stuff especially is, starting right off the bat with the Striker 4 Ice Bundle, it may be the, best priced point unit on our lineup, but it is one of my favorite units to use. It's extremely lightweight. The battery lasts forever. And, the way that our Striker units have such a nice display on them for ice fishing, this thing works great, especially out in the full sunlight. So, Striker 4 all the way up, of course, to the live stuff with the LiveScope and the Panoptix and that kind of stuff. It is a pretty fun lineup.
Nice. So I know you mentioned that. Let's take a quick look at the Striker Plus 4 ice fishing bundle. Like you said, it's got everything in the kit. And for the guy who's just starting out, doesn't know if he wants to do ice fishing, it's got some really nice features.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of where this unit started is, we had the Panoptix ice bundle and I had the ECHOMAP 73 ice bundle, and we really needed something for, I had a lot of younger guys that were kind of looking to get into ice fishing, or even guys like myself that wanted something that was just lightweight, simple, and it just worked. And so that's kind of where this Striker 4, became an ice fishing bundle for us. And it's got a 4.3-inch display. It's extremely bright. That's the thing that I can say about the Strikers is they have a nice, bright, clear screen on them. It just is really easy to read when you're ice fishing, especially in that direct sunlight with the snow reflecting and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the cool thing with these Strikers, they have a GPS built into them. So I can literally save waypoints or a track or a trail. So if I'm just going to run out on a lake real quick and, hit a few spots, at least I can save the waypoints on there and be able to go back to those spots in the future, pair it with my active captain app, all that kind of stuff for kind of your waypoint management and that kind of stuff. And of course, I mean, it's a Striker 4. I could easily put this on a boat when I go up to the boundary waters or whatever else. You kind of get the best of both worlds or both seasons, so to speak, and that kind of holds true for the whole lineup.
Right, right. And I know you made a point about talking about it has a built-in GPS, but I'm going to actually make a point. I've said this, if you've listened to any of the other webinars talking about the Strikers, like Danny said, they do have a built-in GPS in them, but they do not have a chart plotter in them. So there are no mappings. You cannot add mappings into any of the Striker units. And I know, I'll go in the stores and people go, hey, it's a chart plotter. I'm going, no, GPS and chart plotter mean two different things. So just remember, guys and gals, the Striker series have a GPS built in where you can mark, up to 5,000 waypoints like Danny said, but there's no mapping, no cartography, and you cannot add any. So next up, Danny, pretty exciting. We got something new, the new Striker Vivid 5 CV ice fishing bundle.
Yeah, for sure. And, we've had the Striker 5. Actually, the Striker 5 is our longest running ice fishing, bundle that we've had here at Garmin. So, this one's got a great history. There's a lot of these out there on the ice. It's a nice 5-inch display, so you get a little bit more screen size, which is nice when you're looking at, your flasher. Or the cool thing on this too is split screen, and you can do like a split zoom or a split frequency and some of those things that we like to do. So this makes that a lot easier. What we changed this year is this is now a Striker Vivid 5 CV, And really what that means, and we'll kind of look at these here in a little bit, but you're going to get those vivid color palettes, more so when you're doing your summer stuff, but having the ability to do that is going to be cool. These new vivid color palettes, and I'm sure you've talked about these, Dow, but these vivid color palettes really, really make a world of difference when you're looking at the scanning sonar.
Yeah, it truly does. I know we're probably all used to like the top picture there of the amber color, but the new vivid colors, I see so much fish and so much, especially bait fish down here, and just everything pops so much more.
Yeah, and with those vivid colors, it's almost like you get like a contrasting color, I guess I would say. I don't know
Right.
if that's the correct way to describe it, but it's like when you get almost two colors within that color palette, the fish and the structure and stuff, it just pops out so much more. It really is cool upgrade.
Yeah, I agree. And remember, everything's in the box. So when you buy any of our ice fishing bundles, everything's in the box. We also have a portable fishing kit. So that's going to come. Maybe you already have your Striker 5 that you use on your boat. You want to go into ice fishing or try ice fishing. So we do sell the portable fishing kit that comes with a bag, the float, a rechargeable battery, and everything to get you on the water.
For sure. And one thing maybe worth noting too on that kit, Dow, is we offer a full lineup of bundles like we kind of showed in the beginning there, but we offer a full lineup of kits too. So if you already have a Striker 5, or say you have a Striker 7 or an ECHOMAP, 4, 6, or 7, you can fit up to a 7-inch screen in that kit that we've got pictured here. And then of course, if we get bigger than that, anywhere from the 9 to the 10, you can even buy the extra large kit or the large kit. There's a lot of options out there because we really want to be able to make that transition from summer to winter for our customers, because you got this unit, you might as well use it year round.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So next in the lineup, well, let's talk about the vivid colors before we jump ahead. So these are the new vivid colors, and again, like Danny said, they really pop out. So you have the Caribbean, rustic steel, aqua, ice blue, and lava. And I'm a big fan of the lava down here in the south, Danny.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because everyone says, "Well, what color palette should I run?" And it's like every person sees differently, and I think everyone fishes in different conditions. So that's the cool part about having so many options, because it seems like for me that rusted steel, when it gets a little bit darker out or early in the mornings, late in the afternoons, the rusted steel really helps make things pop out. But the lava, I mean, even the Caribbean, there's a floodlight one. I mean, a lot of these, they just really really help see a lot more than what we used to see with just the plain amber and copper and those kind of color palettes.
Yeah, definitely. And you guys, if you haven't tried the vivid colors on the new units, you really need to go into a store and look at those new colors. Pretty impressive, especially out on the water. So let's take a look at the ECHOMAP. Now we're going to jump into the ECHOMAP series, and first one is going to be the UHD 63CV. Now, like we spoke earlier, Danny, the Striker series are don't have mapping. We're added mapping into the UHD into the ECHOMAP units. I'm sorry, and I know that's that's great for the summertime, but it will also go over into the wintertime when you're out on the ice, because these units have over 17,000 lakes built in.
Yeah, and that's really the thing. I mean, with these echo maps, and it really kind of to me just helps tie everything together. So the strikers are great as your run and gun. They definitely do everything that an echo map would do besides those maps. But when you really kind of want to take that next step, having all these maps built in is a tremendous benefit. I've got a ton of examples where we're out crappie fishing and looking for fish in these big, basins or bowls, I guess, that are out in these lakes. And say you're on a new lake and you're trying to find all the 30-foot holes on that lake. I mean, versus driving around drilling holes looking for them, being able to just look at a map right there on your unit is a tremendous benefit to finding fish and being on the right spot and saving your waypoints, and also kind of picking the structure apart, and maybe you're fishing a point, there's a point there, but on the map you can see just a little bit of a bump out. And having that right there at your fingertips is just a huge benefit to catching more fish.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And one thing I do want to mention, again, I've mentioned it before in other webinars. All these units have a feature called quick draw in them, where it maybe you're on a lake or a body of water where we don't have it mapped. I find that hard to believe, but there may be some out there. You can turn your quick draw on and draw your mapping. You can draw 1 foot contours instantly. You can build your own maps. Even on the Striker series, although we talked about they do not have mapping built in, they do have quick draw capability. So you can actually draw up to 2 million acres of data on the Strikers. And that's about 2 million football fields. So I don't think anybody but you could probably fill that up, Danny, but I don't think anybody else could. But that's just another added feature, quick draw. So just remember that if you do need to build a map, or you're, again, like I said, you're on a body of water that you don't have a map, there's no cartography on that lake, you can actually build it yourself. And then we're going to jump up to the probably my favorite, Danny, the ECHOMAP UHD 73 CV ice fishing bundle. And now we're getting into a touchscreen unit.
Yeah,
Actually,
for sure. And this is really kind of how I always explain it. This is kind of where the fun begins when we talk about the Garmin units. And we're in the ECHOMAP line. We have now stepped up to touchscreen. We have now stepped up to a unit that has a network port on the back of it. And so this is where we can start doing LiveScope, Panoptix, networking, all that stuff that is really kind of the exciting stuff. So you get a lot of people that, hey, I'm looking to get into it. I'm not going to add LiveScope this year, but I want to in the future, or I want to be able to put this in my boat and network it to a couple of other units. This is where we need to start. So this ECHOMAP 73 ice bundle is an awesome bundle. The other thing that you can kind of see, it says up top, is we actually have the GT10 IF ice fishing transducer in there. So we've actually got 3 different ice fishing transducers. We have the 10 that comes in this bundle. We've got the 8, and then we've got our dual beam that would be in like the Striker 4. The awesome thing about this GT10 is we go from a very narrow, that 8-degree, to a little bit wider 16-degree cone angle. So it's super precise. It has a lot of power. And one thing people ask me all the time is, okay, if I'm buying a ECHOMAP unit versus like a traditional flasher, like what has been out on the market in the past, is it as good? Is it as fast? Does it, see my jig? Is the, lines too big to be able to see separation? And I'll tell you, our engineers and our software engineers have put a ton of time into perfecting this. And that GT10 paired with our ECHOMAPs is really one of the best flasher units that is out there right now.
Nice. And you said a key thing, Danny. This is the first unit that has a network port in. So if that customer does want to add Panoptix or LiveScope down the road, they have to start off with the ECHOMAP 7-inch screen. That's the first series that has, or the first unit in the ECHOMAP line that has a network port on the back. Danny, I want to ask you real quick. I see rugged, glove friendly. How are the touchscreens on the ice?
Yeah, it's funny because I remember when we first switched to running touchscreens, everybody was like, oh my gosh, how are these going to work if I've got fish guts or slime on my hands? How's this going to work when it's really cold out? And I'll tell you what, I've never had someone come to me at this point and complain and say, hey, it's too cold, I can't use this, or, the screen isn't responding. They just work. Garmin is a company that really, we put our research in, and we've got such a great team of engineers kind of building this stuff. And they picked the highest quality of screens. I've got a pro team guy who's up in Winnipeg, and it gets really cold up there in the winter, and he's using these things out on the ice all the time, not in a house, and they work great for him. So it just goes to show, the rugged quality that we have. These touchscreens definitely work in the cold weather.
Nice, good to know. And guys, you're hearing that from our expert. So if he says it works in the cold, it works in the cold. So let's take a quick look at. So I want to show you guys real quickly. There's a website that you can go to, lakes.garmin.com, and if you are looking to buy an ECHOMAP series unit and you want to know if your lake or the lake you fish or lakes you fish during a year are on there, you can go to lakes.garmin.com. You can type in your state and then it'll pull up all the lakes, all those 17,000 lakes we talked about earlier. They will show up. You can make sure the lake is your lake is on the list. So some of the screenshots, Danny. So we've got a couple of screenshots I'm going to show here. The black, the white, and the blue with the flasher. How do you set yours up, Danny?
Yeah, so this is actually a great example of what I was saying. So you can kind of see three different color palettes here. We've got the maroon in night mode, it looks like, and then we've got the white background, then we got the classic Garmin blue. And so like each person might look at these three color palettes and kind of decide for themselves which one works best for them, or under, are you fishing in your house? Are you fishing outside? Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? So you can kind of play around and pick the color palettes that you like. I actually really like that one with the black background. I feel like the red marks and arcs, you can kind of see someone there must have been jigging, had a fish come up, look at it, looks like the fish went back down and didn't bite. But I love that color palette. I actually really like, you can see they're using traditional sonar on the left with a scope, and then they've got flasher on the right. I actually really, really like using that traditional sonar. I think, you get the instant with the LiveScope, kind of where you get the instant with your jigging as you're moving it up and down in the A scope column there where the red arrow is. And so you kind of get that. But then it also paints a history, and you can kind of see how all of these fish and all of these examples all kind of came up, looked at the jig, didn't bite, and went back down. And it's just kind of fun to be able to see that history. And then of course on the right, you've got the flasher, and that would be just our round wheel basically, where you've got your lines and you're just trying to get those lines to meet.
Yeah, Danny, I grew up with my dad used a flasher on his boat forever. I've always struggled to read the flasher, so I'm so thankful we do include a scope, because I use a scope all the time. And just so the listeners out there know, one of my favorite features of a scope, although a scope basically is what's directly up under that transducer, that little 12 on the very bottom that I have circled, that's actually telling me how wide of a cone, how wide the bottom is. So Danny was talking about the cone angle on that new deucer. This will actually tell you how wide of a span you're looking at across the bottom on a scope. So that's great info to have on the boat.
And that's actually a really cool feature that our software team even built into like the flasher. So like on the flasher screen, you can see the actual cone. You can see where it says 19 degrees, and then you can see 12 feet. So at 19 degrees, 32 feet of water, we're covering 12 feet of the bottom. You're actually able to click on that on our touchscreen units and scroll through and choose what cone angle you want and how much coverage of the bottom that you can get. So dialing in with these units is, some of the best I've ever seen on the market right now. And you can really choose, like if I'm in some shallow water, I might want a wider cone angle to cover more of the bottom. But as I get deeper, I kind of want to narrow that cone because I don't want to be seeing so far, across the bottom. So having that feature and being able to dial it in like that, I mean, that is just some of the cool technology that we have.
Yeah, that's a great feature that everybody needs to take advantage of. I don't think most of our listeners are, but that's why we're doing these webinars to help kind of educate.
For sure.
So let's jump to the Panoptix ice fishing bundle, Danny. This kit's been around a little while, but the Panoptix transducer, I know Panoptix was the original before LiveScope came out, and I fish. I live in Florida, so I fish a little deeper water, and I actually prefer the Panoptix. To me, that's one of the best transducers we ever made.
For sure, and it's kind of funny because I think back when we first had this unit, and you got to think ice fishing, has just changed so much over the years, and the technology nowadays from just every piece of gear and electronics that you use is so advanced. And it's funny because when we first came out with this, I remember telling people, not only does this have a flasher in it, it has all the maps for the whole United States, Great Lakes, border waters. It has a transducer that you can put down and see up to 200 feet in any direction that you point it in live time. And it was almost like more than people could even comprehend. It was just like unbelievable. And it really kind of, kicked off this stuff that we've got with Panoptix and now LiveScope, and just kind of completely revolutionized the way we do ice fishing nowadays. So super cool kit. I actually really have a soft spot for the Panoptix kit still. I mean, obviously LiveScope is great because you can see so much detail, but I tell you what, a Panoptix PS22 transducer, you can see farther with that transducer than any live transducer that I've used. And I mean, being able to see schools of crappies at great distance, this unit is the one I grab first for sure.
Yeah, I would say Danny Panoptix probably, I mean, you know, I'm not an engineer, but what I've seen on my boat, because I have them both, I almost have twice the range with
Oh yeah,
Panoptix over LiveScope. Now,
yeah.
close in to detail on LiveScope, you can't beat it. But if you're looking to get out, you know, that 150, 200 feet down or forward, you really need to have Panoptix on the boat. Or, you know, I say boat, you say ice, or ice and boat. But
Yeah, and you know it's you get the distance, but the other cool thing you get is this is so much lighter. Like you have
yeah.
a transducer. There's no black box in there. So when you're running around drilling holes, looking for fish, I mean you can't beat a Panoptix kit.
That's a great point, Danny. That the Panoptix transducer plugs into that network port on the back, where when we talk about LiveScope, and we'll be talking about that next, that comes with a black box. So the transducer plugs into the black box, and the black box plugs into the network port. So you've got that added weight, you know, and added connections of the LiveScope versus the Panoptix, original Panoptix. That's a great point. So a couple of screens. Again, we all know Panoptix, the PS22, you're going to get your live forward as well as your live down. Pretty impressive. I know I've used this for ever since it came out. I beta tested this, and I'm still astounded at being able to see my jigs as they go down, you know, in 100 plus feet of water.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. So let's talk about the new LiveScope ice fishing bundle for this year. So Danny, pretty impressive little kit we have here.
Yeah, this is awesome. And you can see it up in the top corner there. It says best of category at ICAST this year. And, you know, that's something that we really take some great pride in, and having the entire industry recognize this as this being the greatest, latest, you know, thing to come out in ice fishing this year at ICAST. That was a tremendous, you know, thing for us to be able to have that, you know, called upon on this unit. And, you know, it just goes to show, I keep talking about how great our engineers are, but I mean, you know, they go to bat and make some amazing products, and this lithium LiveScope bundle really kind of shows that. So, you know, the two big new things in there. So obviously we still have the 93 in there. It's going to be a UHD head unit, but we've got a new LiveScope ice fishing specific transducer, and so that's that new LVS 32IF. The cable on it, or the cord that comes from the transducer and plugs into that box, that actually is a little bit more of like a silica. It's a little bit more malleable, and it's a single strand. And so what we're finding is when we're getting into the cold weather, the older cable that we had would get a little bit harder to move and maneuver and kind of wrap back up and put into your bag. So we actually designed this cable to kind of help with that. I think that is going to be a huge benefit this year, just for protecting the cable and not having to try to work with that other one when it gets cold. So we've got that in the lithium bundle, and the only way to get that transducer with a bundle is going to be if you buy this bundle. Now you can buy just that transducer if you want to replace, say, the one you bought last year, but this year to get it in a bundle, you'll have to buy this bundle. And then of course the other thing, probably the biggest thing, one of the coolest things that I've seen in our ice fishing lineup for a while again, is this new lithium battery. And I mean, just the amount of weight savings is unbelievable. And then you add all the extra battery runtime that you get. I mean, this lithium bundle really is definitely kind of, groundbreaking, cool stuff that we've got, and really is the way of the ice fishing industry right now. I think just lithium batteries, you're going to see them in everything here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you've preached this for years, Danny. Weight. We got to get the weight down. So that's pretty amazing. And the transducer, I know, me living in the South in Florida, I take, I don't really think about transducer cable and things like that, but I know you've tested this, you've been working and you've been using these cables, these transducers for a long time. And this is a a great thing that I can say about Garmin, you know, Garmin listened to you. Garmin listened to the customers going, hey, you got to do something. You gotta change the transducer cable. We're having issues in cold weather and battery. You know, Danny, I know you, like I said, you preach, we got to get that weight down. And so this definitely goes to show you that Garmin does listen to their customers.
For sure, for sure. And you know that's the thing that I love is it's like the ice fishing category is such a good example of that. And you look at, you know, the evolution of the entire lineup, and you know, we started with just a Striker 5, and then we had a Panoptix bundle. And then we realized, hey, we need something on the other end of the spectrum as well. And the Striker 4 bundle came to be, and the Striker 4 bundle is a huge success. And you know, I think just being able to listen to the customers and see what they need and going after that is something that, you know, I think us as sales guys at Garmin and Garmin itself, I mean, we really kind of pride ourselves on that. We do try to listen and make what people want.
Yeah, I agree. And you say sales guys, but we use this product. I know
Yeah.
I use it every week, and I know you use it almost every week when you're not hunting. So, but you know, they work. And um, nice. So when we talk about Panoptix LiveScope, again, we have the live down uh, and the live forward. And again, here's our traditional amber color. So that's what we're all used to. But Danny, we've added the vivid color palettes to Panoptix LiveScope.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you know, it's definitely worth noting. Take a look at these screenshots. And, you know, we talk about the Panoptix, and now we're kind of onto the LiveScope bundle. I mean, look at the definition. I mean, you can clearly see, I could show this to, you know, a non-fisherman who doesn't look at sonar, and they'd be able to say, oh my gosh, that's a tree with fish around it. I mean, the definition that LiveScope gives us is incredible. And then now we throw in these vivid color palettes. And kind of like I was talking earlier with these color palettes, if you look at the two middle ones where we've kind of got those secondary colors, you know, it kind of goes from that, I'm going to say chartreuse color to a bluish color, and then kind of an orangish to a purple. I mean, look at how much all that stuff stands out. And you can see the stuff that's more reflective versus the stuff that might be a little bit softer. Really is going to change the way we use LiveScope and just helping stuff pop out and stand out and find fish and find structure.
Yep. Yep. And if you've got a LiveScope, you've had it for a year or so, and you go, why don't I have these vivid color palettes? Do your software update. So that's the key. Do your software updates, and you get the new vivid color palettes.
Yeah.
So again, we have a bag available. If you already have a unit and you want to turn it into have a LiveScope ice fishing kit, we have an additional bag you can buy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like I talked earlier. I mean, the cool part is we've got all of our bundles where you want a Striker 4, you want a LiveScope bundle, you can buy it all right there. But as we know, and as the benefit of Garmin, I think, is that these are all season units. Like we can use these in the summer, we can use these in the winter. Maybe you bought a 93 and you put it on your boat this summer, and now you're like, hey, ice is coming, I want to go ice fishing. Here it is. You can get yourself a LiveScope kit, put your 93 in there, and you're ready to go. And you know, of course, we got a kit that fits every unit and every situation you might want. But you know, this LiveScope kit is definitely a cool thing that we have to be able to bring LiveScope to ice fishing.
Yep, definitely. Oh, skip this page. Let's talk about some LiveScope settings. There's Danny using Panoptix LiveScope. So you know, we're not making this up. Danny catches a lot of fish. So let's talk about the beam angle. This is something that comes up when I'm at shows, you know, and I try to explain to customers that you know, in LiveScope, the beam angle, it's basically 20 degrees by 135 degrees in the forward mode and down mode. And the forward mode, Danny, when you're looking, you know, when you're looking out 100 feet, you're basically looking at a 36-foot span in front of you. So
Yeah.
that's why, you know, when I try to tell people to set their LiveScope up, I have them draw that back to around 60 foot because, you know, at 60 foot, you've got a 22-foot span in front of you. And chances are, you know, if you're boating and you try to make that cast, you're going to be in that strike zone. If you're ice fishing, I guess you can go out there and say, okay, they're 60 feet out. They're right here. I can drill the hole, drill a second hole, and be right on them if you're using the down position, which I guess you are in ice fishing.
Yeah, for sure. And this is something that I like to call out because we really I think played around a lot with what the cone angle was going to be. Because I think it's pretty easy probably for the engineers to switch, but when this live sonar kind of first got going with us with the Panoptix PS21, if you remember back that far, Dow, that transducer actually had a really wide cone angle. And so
It
when
was,
we
al-
were
it
in
was almost, it was
forward,
almost 40 degrees, 40,
yeah,
40
yeah. I
degrees,
mean,
I
it was
think.
it was huge. So imagine if I had a 21, and I did. I had a 21 when we were first testing this ice fishing stuff. I'd drop it down the hole. I'd find a school of crappies, okay, but they'd be, let's say, 75 to 100 feet in front of me. But with that 40-degree cone angle, if I sent my buddy over there to drill a hole, he could be off by 40 feet.
Right.
And because it's just you couldn't dial in on where those fish were. I knew that they were kind of that way, but 40 degrees at 100 feet, I mean, you're talking a pretty big spread.
Yeah,
So
it's probably
then when we
almost 70 feet across.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could be off the entire school of fish. So when we actually came out with the 22, we actually put a I guess I'll call it a blinder. I know that's maybe not the technical term, but a blinder on there where we kind of narrowed that beam down on a PS22. And now when I send you to drill a hole on top of that school of fish at 100 feet, you're going to be on top of them. We're able to dial in and in the summertime make precise casts. In the wintertime, drill our holes and be right on top of those fish. And then we carried that into LiveScope running this 20-degree cone angle. So it's not like that's kind of where it ended up. I mean, we've been testing different cone angles and different scenarios for a long time, and that's really where we settled and said this is exactly what you're going to want to catch more fish.
Yeah, it's kind of the sweet spot. I know, if we went to a 16-degree cone angle or something like that, those fish at such a tight area that if you're trying to, and again, I'm going to go back to boating with,
Yeah.
using LiveScope, trying to make that cast to that narrow of an angle, those fish you're never going to be able to lock in on them. So 20
No.
degrees seems to be that sweet spot. So let's talk about a couple of live scope settings. The first one is the beam icon overlay. And I want to start this off by saying if you guys are going to set this up, and I recommend it, I prefer it, you're probably going to want to do this on the boat. It's going to be easier to do. Danny, I've never done it on the ice. I'm not sure how that would work, so I'm going to recommend definitely do this in the summer. And this is going to give you this little directional indicator on the top right side of the screen. And that's going to actually tell you which way your live scope transducer is pointing when it's in the water.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, anybody that is looking at the image can see the benefit of, this. You know where it's looking, you know where it's pointing. Even in the ice fishing world, obviously, if you have it mounted on a trolling motor or a pole, you'll have a general idea. But when you're just staring at your screen and making casts, I use this a lot of times, even just like flipping, which you'd be like, why is that? Why do you need it when you're close? But it is really a cool option, and I do recommend. I mean, if it's there, you might as well do it. It's a pretty easy calibration and have it set up.
Yep, yep, I agree. And do you have to calibrate it? You don't have to, but if you want to have that image and that directional finder of your live scope on the top right corner, you're going to need to do this. And it's pretty simple to do. When you're on your main screen, you can go to Menu, Sonar Setup, Installation, Calibrate Compass, and then hit begin. And again, it's going to say turn the boat 1.5 times in either direction, turn quickly. So just follow these steps. And then once you're done, the LiveScope transducer will be calibrated and you'll get that direction finder up on top of the screen. So it's pretty easy to do. So I wanted to add a few of the settings, although, we're trying to show you guys what's new for 2021 and 22. We did want to make sure we go over a few of the settings and some of the terminology that you may or may not be familiar with. So, Danny, how do you prefer to set yours up?
Yeah, so I get this question a lot because everybody wants to dial in their sonar and dial in their live scope. And so first things first, I'm gonna say the stock settings from Garmin are always really good settings. And that's true for everything from your 2D to your scanning sonar to LiveScope. But if you really want to kind of just take it to that next level and really dial it in, there's a few things, and you can see them here on the screen. This is exactly what I'm going to go in and kind of do to dial it in, so to speak. And so color gain is huge. And so when you're on LiveScope, I even, I love to run my color gain really high. And so the best way for me to kind of describe color gain is kind of what it's doing is it's making the targets that you're seeing with your LiveScope, and this actually works for Panoptix even, but what you're seeing is it's going to make it brighter and stand out better. And so, if we're looking at that tree with those crappies all around it, if I crank my color gain all the way up, let's say, it's going to make all of that stuff really bright and stand out. I'm also going to see kind of some of that, stuff in the water and some of that other kind of stuff. So what this allows me to do is go to my regular gain, run my regular gain a little bit lower. And so that combination of turning that color gain up and your regular gain, so you're going to be color gain 90% or above even is kind of where I'll do it when I'm ice fishing. And then my regular gain, I'm going to be anywhere from like 62 to 70% of my regular gain. And that piece right there will significantly improve how well you can see stuff, I think, just color gain.
Yeah.
Then of course there's noise reject. So there's some things. So noise reject and TVG, and what these really are filters, okay? And so it's filtering out clutter or noise and that kind of stuff. So noise reject, I'm usually going to run mine on low or medium. But the thing is, you got to remember the more you clean up the screen, the more you turn on these filters is the less stuff you're going to see. So sometimes having a little bit of noise on there or a little bit of like seeing the sediment in the water and some of that stuff, it might be okay, because you want to be able to have the fastest reaction time of your lure and of the fish and be able to see stuff like bait fish in the water. So noise reject, a lot of times I might run it off. I might run it on low. If I'm fishing next to another guy with LiveScope, I might have to run it on medium. But that's kind of where I will run that. And then TVG. So TVG is this time variable gain, and this is kind of a filter, I guess, that helps clean up the water column. So it's kind of that from the surface down in that water column, and you'll see that sediment I'm speaking of in the water, some of that kind of stuff, even little bait fish I've noticed. And so you can actually turn your TVG up to kind of get rid of that stuff. My recommendation, and I think most of our recommendations, is that you'll run that low or off. It's okay to see a little bit of that stuff in there because that's stuff you want to see. You want to see what's below the surface, what's in the water. And so running that TVG, especially, if you're 20 feet or closer or 20 feet or less water, I'm going to run that TVG off all the time.
Gotcha.
And then of course AHRS, this is something you just have to run it on. If you don't run it on, you might see your LiveScope doing some kind of crazy things. This is something that basically kind of helps stabilize what's going on in the transducer and giving you the picture that you really want to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And you made a great point. Garmin engineers take a lot of time in making sure these units are ready to go out of the box. And the settings are pretty good. But like a couple of our pro staff told me, Dowe, with LiveScope, you're constantly adjusting this. If you're just going to turn it on and leave it, you're not going to get the most out of LiveScope. So it's something that during the day, you're going to constantly be adjusting things to different conditions. Again, basic settings here, but every body of water, time of day, air, it's going to be different. So you're going to have to make those adjustments. Couple other setting tips I wanted to throw in here. Again, for best results in less than 20 feet of water, or if you're over 30 feet of water. Again, these are just suggestions. So then these are some I got from our pro staff that have been using LiveScope for many years. So this is what they recommend. But again, like Danny said, adjusting the TVGs, when you have water, the water condition is going to play a key part of that. So again, you're going to have to keep messing with this. There's no perfect setting.
And Dowe, I do want to call out one thing. So I think the biggest problem that I see a lot of times when guys are saying, man, my jig is so small, or I'm having a hard time kind of seeing the fish. The biggest thing is people are running that forward range when we're in the forward mode. They're running their range too far out. And so if I'm in shallow water, if I'm in water less than 20 feet, I'm not looking 100 feet out. It's just a matter of the cone angles. You're
Right.
not going to be able to see that far away. And so you can see on here, your tip is recommending 30 feet, 40 feet out, and that's spot on. As we get deeper, we can definitely see farther out. And I might run mine way farther out when I'm just trying to like maybe see where a drop off is or whatever, but I'm going to understand that my detail is going to be a little less there because the beam is just going to run out based on the cone angles. So a lot of times, if you want to have better detail, zoom that transducer in a little bit and bring your range in a little.
Great point. Great point. Again, these are just basic settings. Try them, but again, you're going to have to keep adjusting LiveScope. Danny, we talked about this kind of when we were talking about all the units. We showed, hey, we have an all-season boat kits. These are pretty nice.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the cool thing, you look at the screen here, we've got one for every one of the units, that we're putting in there, and it's got everything. So you want to be able to take this unit, use it in the summertime, as you should. These units, ECHOMAP 93, 73, 63, these are all great units to use both ice and summer. Well, you buy the ice bundle. Now here you go. You get your power cable. You get that extra bracket because of our quick release bracket system. You get the transducer you need all in one box. You're ready to go fishing in the summertime. Good to go. And then of course the LiveScope one. This will give you everything you need to do to take your LiveScope ice fishing bundle, put it in a boat. So we just made it simple. Before I was having to go through and build these kits or give cheat sheets to dealers on this is what you need, to go one way or the other. But now here it is in one box and just makes all of our lives so much easier.
Nice, nice. And we have additional extra parts, accessories available for everything. LiveScope, you can go to Garmin.com and check those out. But we make, if you need a pole, spare parts, we have that stuff available. So last but not least, I want to thank you guys for watching the video or watching the webinar. Please, if you like this webinar, we have other webinars. You can go to our Garmin YouTube channel. Check out our more in-depth on LiveScope, in-depth on ECHOMAPs and ECHOMAP Ultras. Also, please check out our podcast, Behind the Chart Plotter. Danny, I want to thank you guys. Thank you for joining me today. Been really educational. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, Dow. I do love this.
All right. Thanks, buddy. And again, if you have any questions, please shoot an email to marine.training@garmin.com and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. From the Garmin Marine team, hope to see you on the water. Take care.